you've won Emmys, here you are presenting at the Daytime Emmy Awards. You said you didn't know who Erika was, but your wife did. Now that you're in this world, like, are you shocked at the housewives of it all? Like, you've seen viral things in your several decade career, like how deep the Bravo fandom is and housewives in our pop culture world.
It's amazing, and I have a very loyal following in terms of, the predator investigations, especially, and, that has sort of reached, in a way, a pop culture status of its own. And we have three generations of followers, from teenagers to people in their 70s who listen to the podcast and watch the shows and subscribe to True Blue and all the rest. But the Housewives franchise it is above and beyond anything I've seen in pop culture, in television. I mean, and again, it translates multiple generations as well. I mean, it's kids and girls in college are watching it. Women
Yeah.
who are in their 70s watch it. I mean, it's really something in terms of a franchise, and the power and endurance of the franchises is quite impressive.
Would you ever, I mean, you do have the podcast, you are busy, you have this podcast now, you have a lot going on. Would you ever want to try to bring To Catch a Predator back to prime time? And is this a different climate? Is it more likely to be greenlit now or not?
Well,
I almost,
we do it. It ran its course at NBC, and then lived in expanded versions on MSNBC for many years, and now we do it on my streaming crime network, True Blue, and people can check it out at watchtrueblue.com, TRUBLU, and we've got 70 new episodes out there. So we're doing it. I mean, we've
wow.
evolved in the franchise in terms of working, I suppose, more closely with law enforcement to ensure that there are successful prosecutions in the cases. I mean, when we started 20 years ago in this particular franchise, we did the first two investigations on our own. We had security, but we didn't, have law enforcement present. And it became very clear after the second investigation that we needed to do that in order to be A, socially responsible, to make sure these guys face justice, and B, it was rather unfulfilling for the viewer to see these guys, whistling Dixie walking down the street, not facing any consequences. So from that third investigation up until, the one that we did 2 weeks ago, we've involved law enforcement, and the system works very well because these guys do face justice.
You are doing it now on your own
Oh yeah,
network, True Blue.
we've been doing it, and people can also see that we have fast channels on Roku and Pluto and a number of other platforms. So it's out there, and a lot of people are able to see it.
Is there one case from all these decades, To Catch a Predator that just stands out as like, this guy was,
So many, there's some who are darkly humorous, some who are very disturbing. Well, they're all very disturbing, but I think it's about a 100-weight tie for first. But, you know, what struck me recently, and these episodes are on True Blue now, is that in two investigations back to back, we had repeat sex offenders, registered sex offenders show up, guys who had been through the system, guys who did prison time. And here they are again, surfacing in our sting to sexually exploit a teenager, a girl. And it speaks to me that some of these guys can't be rehabilitated. I mean, I think some are, and we've interviewed some of them on the podcast who got arrested once, sought help, had monitoring, registration as a sex offender, and straightened their lives out. But there's a certain percentage of these guys who just will not stop. And the excuses I get, the lies I get, just absolutely astounding. And we had a guy just 2 weeks ago. He had been caught with child porn by Homeland Security, did 4 years in prison, federal prison, got out, got popped in an adult prostitution sting, charged with a misdemeanor, and then he shows up looking for a teenage girl in our sting. I mean, this guy's got to go away, like forever. He's 61 years old, and he's proved that he can't be out in society without being a danger. And that's what's stunning to me. It's the guys who know who I am before I speak, the guys who know we're out there doing this, that law enforcement is out there doing this on multiple levels, from the federal government on down to local sheriffs. and they show up anyway.
How does the internet, and you've covered some of this on your current shows, but like how does the
Sure.
internet, because things have changed since you started doing this, like does that make it easier to catch a predator, harder?
I think it makes it easier for the predators and harder to catch them. In the beginning, David, most of this activity took place in chat rooms on AOL, Yahoo, and maybe MySpace. So it was concentrated in an area, and all the chats were all in one spot. Well, now there are hundreds, if not thousands, of platforms upon which adults can approach kids, from the obvious ones, Reddit, the games, the interactive gaming, to just the regular old Instagram. And we've seen these platforms used, these seemingly safe, everyday platforms used. And once the contact is made, it all goes to texting, which is a lot harder to track and monitor. So I think there's more activity, predatory activity going on now than ever before, but it's more diffuse and harder to detect and catch.
What do you think? I mean, I know you can't predict the future is going to happen at the Tom Girardi trial. I mean, do you think we'll actually have a guilty verdict?
Well, the first rule about guessing juries is never guess a jury. But um, I think the government has strong evidence. I think they've got very definitive forensic financial evidence. I think they've got some very strong witnesses, and I think it's just a matter of connecting the dots. Now, does the jury, you know, sympathize with an elderly man who's past his prime, who might be suffering from dementia? Maybe, they'll put up a good defense. So you can never know for certain, but I know you know, what the federal government has as evidence, and it's strong evidence. So, jurors in most cases take their jobs very seriously. And I think for the most part do weigh the evidence as they are supposed to. They take the instructions from the judge seriously, and they do their duty. And so if all that goes as it's supposed to, I think I wouldn't be surprised to see a conviction.
I imagine, and I mean, you could say this about any case, the death case, but I imagine finding this jury because I saw the questions. I mean, do you know who Erika Jayne is? Do you know what the Housewives are? Do you listen to podcasts about the Housewives? Like, it had to have been a minute to find this jury of people that just aren't tuned in, or at least
Well,
know.
they'll start, when the trial starts. They'll start with voir dire, as you know, and jury selection, and I think you'll be surprised. Um, we sort of live in this hyper aware media world. I suppose it's a cocoon, a very large cocoon, but especially, every time I come out here to the West Coast where I am today, I'm made more aware of it. But I think if you take a step out into the suburbs, I mean, maybe not everybody is watching the Housewives of Beverly Hills on Bravo every night. And so, there are going to be guys who haven't seen it, who sort of know about Tom